Peace and blessings, beautiful people. Peace and blessings. I'm Goddess Imani, and welcome to Sacred Love Lessons. This is a sacred space where we remember who we are, rise in our truth, and radiate the frequencies of love, clarity, and sovereignty. I was raised in a church called a church home for all outcasts. Even now, that name feels almost prophetic. The church was small and most of the people were family. My great aunt was the pastor and my great uncle was the assistant pastor. Church wasn't simply something we attended. Church was our world. We were there several days a week, sometimes for endless hours. We went to Tuesday night prayer service, Wednesday night service, Sabbath school on Saturdays. We went to church all day on Sundays, and if there was a revival anywhere, we were there too. Despite that it was a school night, we were still at church. It was fundamental Pentecostal Christianity. Lots of praying, preaching, shouting, rules, and from a child's perspective, competition. There always seemed to be someone demonstrating how holy they were, how much they knew, or how loudly they could pray. I hated it. Okay, I did. I hated it. I didn't have the language for it then, but I knew something about that environment didn't feel like freedom. My mother was deeply immersed in the church, and religious authority became her personal authority. If I talked in church, I could be punished. If I didn't behave as expected, I could be punished. Some of those punishments were severe. I remember one time where she told me, she was like, stand right here. And then she took the car and drove over my feet. I remember the pain, screaming and crying, and my mother and my great aunt praying over my feet and putting oil on my feet. I remember being whipped with a belt so severely that my mother left a huge red mark across the entire side of my face. Why? Because I had been talking in church. I remember being forced to eat more food than I could finish. And then when I couldn't finish all of my food, I remember being whipped, beaten. And that went on daily. That was my daily reality. That went on for a long time. She didn't do it to my older brother. She didn't do it to my younger siblings. It was just me. These experiences happened over and over and over, again and again. I have plenty of stories, by the way. Now, looking back, I wonder what kind of soul contract did I have with my mom? Because I remember watching my siblings receive things that I did not. My mother invested heavily in my older brother. He's the golden child. And then she invested in my siblings, my younger siblings. But somehow she skipped over me. I'm child number 2 out of 6. When I was 9, my cycle began. I was in the 4th grade. I was a little girl experiencing something I did not understand. Instead of being gathered close and taught about my changing body, I remember being whipped and screamed at and yelled at if I had done something wrong. And to this day, I never understood why. Eventually, I learned that some questions belong to the person who caused the wound. The child should not have to carry the burden of finding the answer. What I do know is that there was little nurturing, little preparation, and little transmission of wisdom. So I learned to teach myself. I've read a lot of books. I spent a lot of time in the library. I asked a lot of questions to other people, other adults that helped me along the way. And my childhood wasn't entirely without light. My maternal grandmother was a beacon of hope, and so was my great aunt. To everyone else, she was the pastor, but to me, she was the oracle. I love her so much. Journey well, Amy. I would tell her my dreams, and she would interpret them. We would sit together and talk about their meanings, and she also shared stories about our family and the people who came before us. She was so funny, you guys. She carried stories, dreams, and wisdom, and I was fascinated by her. We were both Scorpios, which became another frequency thread between us. Then in 2018, I experienced a spiritual ascension that seemed to last forever. And during that period, my higher self told me to learn how to interpret my own dreams. Because before that, I had always gone to the oracle. So I stopped bringing my dreams to the oracle, and I began studying them myself, watching the symbols, noticing the patterns, and learning to listen differently. By the end of 2019, I had developed my own ability to understand what my dreams were saying. In December of 2019, I shared my final dream with the oracle. This time, I already knew what it meant. When she gave me her interpretation, she confirmed what I already knew. And I felt something I will never forget. I felt good about myself. I had tapped into my Joseph frequency. The gift I had admired in her as a little girl was now alive in me. She had been real the whole time. What I recognized in her as a child was real, and what she carried had been part of my spiritual inheritance all along. At some point, she couldn't interpret my dreams for me anymore. I had to learn how to listen for myself. That was part of growing up. That was part of remembering. For years, I felt like the outcast. There is something almost hunting about that when you consider the name of the church where I was raised. A church home for all outcasts. Yes, that was the name. I was raised in a place that proclaimed itself a home for outcasts while I was learning what it felt like to be one. As I grew older, I began to understand that what I experienced wasn't simply strict parenting or church discipline. It was pain, fear, and withholding. A child being denied tenderness when tenderness was needed. And those experiences shaped the questions I would spend much of my life answering. Who am I? What do I believe? What does love feel like? What is spiritual authority? What does belonging mean? What wisdom was supposed to be passed down to me? And perhaps the deepest question, what happens when the person who is supposed to nurture you becomes someone you need protection from? I know I'm not the only one, because I've seen a lot of you guys posting YouTube videos and TikToks. I see you, okay? So I know I'm not the only one, but I am asking the question. What happens when the person who was supposed to nurture you becomes someone you need protection from? As an adult, I eventually learned that my mother had spearheaded what I experienced as a smear campaign against me. I learned that she had encouraged people to pray for the end of my marriage, told people to reject me, and discouraged them from helping me. Now, to her defense, she wasn't the only one, okay? Because there's some other people that I'm aware of who did the same exact thing. That's why I'm unbothered by it, okay? But for it to be my mother, the person that I should get nurturing and love from, that is what got me. So once again, I found myself in a position of the outcast. But this time, I was an adult. Something inside me had changed. I no longer needed to beg to be understood. I no longer needed to fight for a seat at a table where my humanity was being negotiated. I finally understood the lesson. Someone's rejection of you does not determine your worth. Someone's rejection of you does not determine your worth. So I chose distance. I chose boundaries. I chose peace. I chose myself. And I began my Sankofa differently. I had spent years knowing what it felt like to have love and wisdom withheld from me. So I became devoted to investing in my own self-love and remembering the wisdom I already carried. I knew what it felt like to have knowledge withheld. So I began teaching so that my children, my goddesses, could have a more loving experience than I had. I knew what it felt like to have someone else define my spiritual reality. So I began exploring spirituality from within. And in the words of Deepak Chopra, meditate. Okay? Meditate. I knew what it felt like to be the recipient of someone else's rage and pain and being told who I was. So I began asking the question, who am I? Who am I? And I continued asking that question every day. For years now, every day. And that question became a part of the foundation of my spiritual work, spiritual frequency hopping. I realized I didn't need to become someone else. I only needed to remember. Remember who I was before other people's judgments. Remember what I knew before fear taught me to doubt myself. Remember the wisdom that existed within me even when no one taught me how to access it. Remember the goddess who had been there all along. And this is where spiritual frequency hopping began to make deeper sense to me. My life wasn't about escaping one frequency and becoming someone entirely different. It was about remembering that another frequency had always been available. The frequency of love, the frequency of integrity, the frequency of belonging, the frequency of wisdom, the frequency of peace, the frequency of remembering, the frequency of sovereignty. And I began to understand spiritual inheritance differently. There are things I inherited that I chose to keep. Wisdom, strength, curiosity, leadership, resilience, the ability to endure and still create. And then there are patterns I choose to end. Intentional infliction of pain stops with me. Using silence as a weapon stops with me. Exclusion and outcasting stops with me. Withholding love, knowledge, and wisdom stops with me. Scapegoating stops with me. The belief that love must be earned through obedience and performance stops with me. I don't romanticize my childhood. There were things a child should never have had to experience. Those experiences were painful. They mattered. They left marks. But they did not get the final word, because I am no longer the little girl standing where someone told her to stand, waiting for someone else to determine what happens to her. I know who I am. I am the goddess who chooses where she stands. I am the goddess who decides who has access to her. I am the goddess who decides what wisdom gets carried forward through me. I am the goddess who can build the sanctuary I needed as a child. And perhaps that is the greatest triumph of all. The girl who grew up feeling like an outcast eventually discovered that she didn't need to spend her life trying to be included. She could create her own sanctuary. She could become a keeper of wisdom, a teacher, and a guide. She could take what was withheld and transform it into something that could be shared. She could restore an interrupted inheritance. She could choose what continues through her. I was never here to prove that I deserved a place in someone else's world. I am here to remember that I have a world of my own. My childhood, it is a part of my story. However, it is not the definition of my story. My mother is a part of my history, and she is not the author of my future. The church was a part of my spiritual inheritance, and it is not the boundary of my spirituality. Rejection was part of my experience, and it is not the measure of my worth. And the little girl who once felt like the family outcast, she is still with me. I don't leave her behind. I take her with me. I protect her. I listen to her. I teach her. I nurture her. And together, we remember, rise, and radiate. Because sometimes the greatest triumph isn't being welcomed back into the place that rejected you. Sometimes the greatest triumph is realizing that you were never meant to go back. That's what I have for you today. Thank you for being here and sharing this sacred space with me. If this episode resonated with you, please like it and share it with someone who is ready to remember their own power. And until we speak again, be the light.